of the valley. There's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. You turn mourning to dancing. You turn beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Amen. You can be seated.
Good morning, everybody. How are we doing today? Good, good. Welcome to our friends online. They heard none of the first 3 minutes while we worked on a sound issue, so they don't know what you guys said about them, okay? But welcome to our friends who are watching online. We're so glad you're here today. My name is Ben. I get to be one of the pastors here, and we're just going to share together for the next couple of minutes. But I want to tell you that I'm convinced there's two kinds of people in this world. There's the kind of people whose house is always clean, and there's the kind of people who, when they find out someone is coming over, they do the flight of the bumblebee where they stuff everything in a closet, in the oven, like there's things in the microwave that don't belong there, just to make the house look halfway presentable, right? And some of you are like, yeah, we don't even go that far. I live in a house that is the first category of always clean, and it's not because of me. That will not surprise you. It is because my wife, Whitney, she is a neat freak, and she is training our boys to be neat freaks, and I'm okay with it, except I get in trouble by all three of them now. But what's funny is sometimes if we're having people over, or sometimes if it's been a long week and the house doesn't look perfect, Whitney will look at me and she'll say, "We have to clean this house. It is a wreck." And me, I'm like, I mean, it looks pretty good to me. And so I figured out after 11 years of marriage, saying, "I think you're wrong, it looks good to me," wasn't the right way to go. So I now will just say, "You're absolutely right. This place is a disaster. How do we live with ourselves?" And hopefully by 22 years of marriage, I'll drop the sarcasm and just totally agree. But what happens all the time is that we'll start cleaning, and what I finally have taught Whitney to do is like, listen, don't just tell me to go, like give me some jobs. So Whitney will make a list, and she'll do about 12 of the jobs that she thinks are necessary, and she'll give me 2. It's a fair ratio for the 2 of us, okay? And I will start on one of my 2 jobs, and I will really try hard for like 3 minutes. And then, like, I'll be like, "Oh, hey, the Reds are playing, right? And the Reds, they're in a wild card race right now. Like, they need me watching their games so that they can keep winning, okay? Like, they have called me and said, if you're not watching, we're not winning, right?" And then I'll be like, I'll take something out to the garage to put it where it goes, and I'll see my golf clubs. And I'm like, "I haven't swung in a while. Let's make sure I still know how to do it. Maybe, oh, that one's got a little bit of dirt on it, right?" And then someone will call me, and I don't like getting phone calls except when I'm supposed to be doing something else. And I'm like, "Oh, hey, telemarketer man, how are you? I'm so glad to talk to," and he's like, "Sir, your car warranty." I'm like, no, tell me how your day's going. I'm just trying to get out of cleaning the house, right? And so I will not even have finished the first job. Whitney will have all 12 of her jobs done, and she'll just kind of like roll her eyes at me and be like, I don't understand you. And I'll say, "Good news, me neither." Anybody else like that? Anybody else easily distracted? No? It's a really dumb question to ask, because if you're easily distracted, you've already been staring at your phone for 3 minutes. Like, I don't know, did he say something? That was a weird way to start a conversation. Like, I don't get it. But that's me, right? I am a distractible guy. Like, if you get up in the next couple of minutes and leave, I'm going to be like, "I wonder where that person's going. I wonder why they're leaving. I hope they're going to the bathroom and not walking out because they're mad at something I said. I wonder what it's like out there. I wonder what the coffee's doing." Like, that's the way it goes. And I'll just keep talking so you won't know, but it's just the way my brain works. Now somebody's like, "Oh, I really have to go to the bathroom, and this is not going to end well for me." But like all of us, I think, love to be distracted, because distracted just adds to our busyness. And there's nothing better than being busy. Because when I'm busy, I can tell other people how busy I really am, right? Because you're like the kind of people who will post on Facebook all of the things that they got accomplished, and everybody else like, "Oh, I don't know how you do it." Because they're like me, and we're just sitting there scrolling on our phone like, "Oh man, that person accomplished a lot today. I bet they didn't like as many pictures on Facebook as I did, though." Like, you just keep going and keep moving. And so it's this thing that happens, right, where we get so busy that I think a lot of times we miss the why we're busy in the first place. We get so busy and so bogged down and so intense with things that we forget why we're ever busy in the first place. In the late 80s, there's one of those old legends that comes out of the USSR. And it's there that they realized one of their factories one of their sawmills had a major theft problem. And so they decided to clamp down on it, and they put guards at the exit to this factory in the USSR. And so every night they would search your bags, they'd search everything you were taking out. And they said they knew there was this one legendary man who had to be stealing just everything. And so the first Monday that they had the guards there, Peter was his name. Peter pushes the wheelbarrow out the door, and the guards stop him, and they say, "We know what you're doing." He said, "All I'm doing is taking sawdust home, guys. It's a sawmill. I'm taking the dust home. I use it at home." And they, "Oh, we don't believe you." So they dump the sawdust out, and they search through all of it. They find nothing, and they put it back in the wheelbarrow, and Peter walks out. Tuesday night comes, it's the same deal. Wheelbarrow full of sawdust, and they dump the sawdust out, and they just keep searching. Wednesday night, same story. Thursday night, they dump the sawdust out again. They cannot figure it out. Friday finally comes, and the guards are getting frustrated. They know he's stealing things, and they cannot figure out what it is he's stealing. They know he's up to something. And finally, one of the guards goes, "Listen, Peter, we're not even going to be mad at you. We just need you to tell us what it is you're taking out of this place." And he smiled, and he goes, "Wheelbarrows." And what happens so often is we get so focused on something that seems important, on something that seems like it matters, that we miss the most significant thing. Last week when we started talking about busyness, I made this joke, and I make it all the time, where I said, you get so busy that you forget you have soccer appointments and dentist practice. And what happens is, like, every time I make that joke, about 3 people will be like, haha. And then about 10 people will come up to me and be like, are you okay? Is your brain working all right? You said soccer appointment and dentist practice. And, like, they didn't get the joke. And then there's about 10 of you who were like, I didn't remember that. I wasn't listening. But it's this moment, right, where we just, like, we're so busy and we're so caught up in stuff that we don't even know what's happening. And I think right now in 2021, one of the reasons that we're as busy as possible is because of that 3-month block of time in 2020 where we weren't allowed to do anything. And I swear to you, if I ever see another jigsaw puzzle, I don't know what I will do. In fact, we did so many jigsaw puzzles in 2020 that people got them for me for Christmas. I've never thrown a Christmas present in the fireplace before, but I was like, nope, never again, I'm done. But, like, somebody's like, I bought you a jigsaw puzzle for Christmas. But it's this moment, like, where we just have become so busy and so bogged down that we've spent a lot of time on a lot of important things, and we've forgotten what is most significant. And it happens over and over again. And as your history teacher will tell you, history repeats itself. Because it's not the first time that it's happened. And there's this story, and it's one of those stories in the life of Jesus that just is this little snippet of a story. You've probably heard a sermon about it. You've probably heard about it. But it happens in the book of Luke. If you want to turn in the book of Luke, chapter 10, you can. Or on the screen behind me is going to be the QR code. You can open your smartphone's camera app and scan that. It'll open you up to a YouVersion live event where you can follow along, and there's some links in there for stuff. But I want to encourage you, one way or the other, to get out your Bible and turn to Luke chapter 10. And it's Luke who records this story. And out of the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Luke is the only one who tells this story, and he only gives 4 verses to it. But as we've been together studying the table, we've been learning what it means, we've been learning about following Jesus from the meals that Jesus ate. And today we're going to look at another meal that Jesus ate in somebody else's home. And so I want to invite you to turn with me to Luke chapter 10, and we're going to start in verse 38, and it goes like this. It says, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. And you have to think through what Martha would be going through, right? Jesus, at this point, if you read chapter 10 before this, has already at least 72 people who are following him through and through. He's their ride or die. They're there with him all the time. Some scholars would tell you that number actually could even be higher. And so Jesus is gathering this following. At this point, he's already performed miracles. He's already healed people. Things are going well. Jesus is gaining in notoriety. And Martha invites him to her home. And what is the greatest honor of their culture, he agrees to come to their home for a meal. And Martha does that thing where I'm sure if you're one of the second kind of people, you're like, I hope you weren't hungry because the oven is out of commission at the moment. If I bake anything for you, it's going to end poorly. But Martha starts doing the flight of the bumblebee thing where she's getting everything ready. She's pulled out the finest of china. You know, like your mom said, we only get this out if the Pope or the Queen visits. Like Jesus is the third part of that. Like we'll clean the china for him. You know, like she's getting out the finest of china. You're not pulling out a new recipe on this day. You're making the family favorite. You're going to cook what is the perfect thing that you know how. And Martha is going through all of this because Martha is a smart woman who knows the law. And she knows how important it is to the culture and to the heart of God to be a good host to these guests. And so Martha does whatever it takes to be as good of a host as she can to Jesus. And so she's running through the house, she's sweating, she's got like the apron and she's waving it at herself, and she's doing all these things. And Martha starts to get frustrated because in verse 39 it says she had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. And so here's Martha running around the house, cooking, baking, cleaning, and here's Mary just sitting in the living room talking to Jesus. And some of you, if you're ultra spiritual, you'd be like, I would be Mary. But if you're a real person, you know, if you're Martha, you get ticked at Mary. Because you're like, why am I doing all this work and you're just sitting here? Like, I'm getting ready for this guest and you're just talking to the guest. Like, we need to get ready. And this is so key that I do not want you to miss it. We said we don't remember why we're busy. And this is where it matters more than anything, is you need to know I put the rest of the important aside to focus on the significant. Because what Martha was doing wasn't unimportant. There wasn't a pizza delivery. There wasn't Grubhub, DoorDash. Like, somebody had to feed these people. Somebody had to be the host. But what Mary did was Mary realized that I can put aside everything that I think is important because the thing of King Jesus is more significant than any of the others. And I don't want you to miss that. I don't want you to misunderstand that what Martha's doing isn't wrong, but what Martha's doing is far more about the things that seem important than the thing that is most significant. And she's angry, right? I mean, she's mad. She feels like she's been gypped. She thinks she's getting the raw end of this deal. She can't quite get a hold of things, and Mary's just sitting there. So she bursts into the room, and she says, And she says this in verse 40, Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. And she came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. And I think that's like, as a parent, it's such a funny thing. Like, my kids will walk in. Abel did not help clean up my room. Well, did he play in your room? No, but he didn't help me. Like, it happens all the time. And it's funny, this moment where she walks into the room where King Jesus is sitting, right? Jesus Christ, the Savior of the earth. And she goes, tell my sister to help me bake these biscuits. Like, can you imagine walking up and doing that? But what I think is even more interesting is if you look in this moment, Martha uses the word me or myself 3 times in that one sentence. Because what's Martha consumed with here? What's Martha worried about here? She's worried not about the things that are the thing that is most significant. She's just worried about some things that are important. And they're not wrong, but they don't matter in comparison. I saw a commentator wrote something similar to this, but I had to kind of tweak it, and I wanted to share this with you. I want you to hear this. I want you to hear me say, don't be so caught up in trying to engage Jesus in your plans that you fail to see his plan for you. Don't be so caught up in trying to engage Jesus in the plans that you have made, in the things that you want to do, and the things you want to get accomplished, that you fail to see his plans for you. Don't allow the important to distract you from the significant. Martha walks in and she says, Jesus, my plan is to feed you dinner at 5:30. Jesus, my plan is to make this a great meal that you're going to tell everybody about forever. Jesus, my plan is, and Jesus says, no. That's not my plan. And so this is what happens to us, right? Is we allow ourselves to get so busy with the things that we know we have to get accomplished. We allow ourselves to get so busy with the things that we must do that what happens over and over and over again is that we've told Jesus our plan. Thought, hey, if you want to come help, feel free to come along. And instead, Jesus says, here, my plan. And my plan is much different. And verse 41 says, Martha, Martha, you are worried about and upset about many things, but few things are needed. Indeed, only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. And this is what happens, I think, to so many of us all the time. Is that we've allowed ourselves to be consumed by the important, to be consumed by the things that we think matter, that we've missed out on the better, that we've missed out on the most significant, that we've missed out on the weightiest of matters. And so what we find is we find ourselves bogged down over here. When Jesus called us to isn't busyness, it isn't things. What Jesus called us to is the most significant thing, which was helping people find and follow Jesus. Which is helping people find and follow Jesus. We become so consumed with other stuff, with busyness, with secondary issues that we forget the thing that is most important is King Jesus. There's a second thing to note here, and I think it's equally important to draw attention to. And I've heard sermons on this, I've read this, but I never saw this until Tim Keller pointed it out, or N.T. Wright pointed this out. It's possible that the other reason Martha is frustrated is because Mary shouldn't be in the room in the first place. You see, culturally, a place for a woman in the first century in Israel would not be in the living room where the men are discussing heavy matters. It would have been in the kitchen. And so it's very possible that not only is Martha not upset because she's not helping, but she's also upset because what her sister is doing is wrong in their culture. But what does Jesus say? So I'm not worried about cultural norms. I'm not worried about other people's view of women. He says, she's here with us. And that's something I don't want you to miss because we would glaze by that in a moment. We think, yeah, whatever. But what happens here is that Jesus is upsetting cultural norms that were that way for a long time. And he said, listen, the gospel, what I'm bringing isn't just for the guys in the room, it's for the ladies as well. It's not just for the people who are important, it's for the people who everybody else thinks are unimportant. And again, what Jesus is saying is he says, you can worry about all the important things you want, but the only thing that matters is the thing that's significant. And maybe for you, that's the most freeing thing you'll hear today. Is, well, people think I need to because that's the way people around here do. People think I should because that's the way people around here do. But what Jesus is telling Mary and Martha here is he's saying, listen, I don't care about the cultural norms. I don't care about the way other people view things. What matters is that Jesus is the most important thing and everything else pales in comparison. And so no matter what other people say, no matter what other people expect, no matter what other people think, nothing else compares to the most significant thing. And so that means you and I need to remind ourselves, what is that most significant thing? And it's Jesus. It's not our busyness, it's not our work, it's not our stuff. Instead, it's Jesus. It's Jesus, the very King who came to this earth to die for you and me. It's Jesus, the very man who came to this earth as fully God and fully man to rescue us. That is the most significant, the only significant thing. I need you to hear me when I tell you this. There is not a special section in heaven for the workaholic. It's not as if when the new heavens and the new earth are created and when we see God face to face, he goes, you were extra busy. Come on over here to the special place. He doesn't look at the person who says, I taught Sunday school for 42 years and never missed a Sunday. He's not like, you go over there. I do think there's probably a special place for the teachers who taught Ben Stroop in Sunday school growing up, but there's not this moment where he's like, the extra busy people, over this way. Everybody else who was a slacker, over there. Because I think oftentimes we think like the more I do, the more I accomplish, the better I am, the happier Jesus will be with me. But that's not how it works. He requires one thing of you and me. And that's all of our focus and all of our attention. And that's what matters. I think about that a lot. And a couple weeks ago, Abel is 7. He's my oldest boy. And he decided he wanted to build a desk in his room. And so he started drawing plans for a desk. You can imagine what a 7-year-old's plan for a desk looked like. But he started drawing plans for his desk, and he decided he was going to go out and fundraise about $100 for the desk. I told him he underestimates the price of lumber. That won't buy him 1 2x4 right now. And so he started working on it. Well, his grandfather, my father-in-law, Paul, got wind of his grandson needing to build a desk. And you need to know this, my father-in-law, Paul, has been flipping houses and being a building contractor since he was like 12. And I'm not exaggerating. His family all started flipping houses when he was still a teenager. So he has been in the building industry for 40-some years. And so he knows a few things and he's seen a few things. And he said, no grandson of mine is going to have just a cheap little desk. And so Paul set about to building a desk for Abel and Cohen. But Abel wanted to build his own desk. And so he wasn't sure how he felt about that. And so what Paul did is Paul designed the desk, made the cuts, got everything ready, pre-drilled the holes. And then the boys came to the house and they built a desk with Paul. Listen, y'all, he could have done it blindfolded with one hand behind his back. He didn't need their help, but they got to take the screws and drive them into the pre-drilled holes. They got to take the sandpaper and rub it across the top of the desk. They got to help Papa. And when they came home, they didn't say, Papa built this desk. What did they say? They said, we built a desk at Papa's. And that's, I think, what happens to all of us so often, is like we think the world is spinning on its axis because you and I are busy. We think that everything's going okay because you and I keep our calendar full. If it weren't for me, this church would go down. If it weren't for me, this organization wouldn't survive. If it weren't for me, but Jesus, the King, God, the Creator, they're going, we'd be just fine. And what God is doing is he's inviting you to join him in his plans. He's not looking for you to ask for assistance in yours. And he's asking you for your focus. He's asking you to not be distracted by the things that seem important but are insignificant. That's what he said to Mary, didn't he? He said it in verse 42. He said, few things are needed, indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. And so what I'm asking you to do is choose the thing that's significant, to choose what Jesus wants for you. That's why as a church, we keep our calendar very slender. It's because we don't really think that busyness is going to help the issue. We ask you to come on Sunday mornings, attend online on Sunday mornings. We ask you to be a part of a group, and we ask you to serve somewhere, even if it's not here, to serve. I was with a friend this week who was telling me that his church meets 5 nights a week. And I was like, I would be so bored. But that's what they do, and I don't want that for us. I don't want us to be so busy that we miss why we're doing it in the first place. And so we keep things simple. But when we keep things simple, we keep them simple because we want you to have a singular focus. We want you to have a singular focus on raising your kids to know Jesus, on working to glorify Jesus in your workplace, on glorifying Jesus in your home, on whatever it is you're doing, that the center of why you're doing what you're doing is Jesus, is the most significant thing. And I'll be the first to admit that there are a lot of times where that busyness and those distractions cloud me from the thing that's most important, and that's Jesus. And I think it's fair to say that if you're honest with yourself, the thing that clouds you right now from what's most important is pretty easy to define. I'm going to be kind of blunt. I'm not really ever that blunt. I'm a nice guy. I'm afraid of confrontation, but I'm going to share some stuff like just because I can. It's fairly easy to see what's distracting American Christians right now. And I don't want you to think I'm getting political because I think both sides are nuts. So just bear with me. Whether it's masking or not masking, whether it's vaccinating or not vaccinating, whether it's this guy's right and this guy's wrong, or this guy's wrong and this guy's right, whatever it is you want to identify it as, we can talk about it all day. You can tell me your opinion. I'll just won't pay attention because I'll be distracted. But whichever side you find yourself on, I can guarantee you that I can make a scripturally based argument on this secondary issue that will prove you to be not correct. And that's fine. I'm not trying to win an argument. But what I'm telling you is that what happens so often to American Christians is that we get so caught up in so many unimportant issues, and we get so bogged down with so many little things that we forget what is most significant. And I would blame in part, it's not a new problem, but I would blame in part the internet, because it's made everything the most important thing you'll ever hear, talk about, or think about. And so what happens is we get distracted, and we have gotten distracted from the most important thing. And so here's my challenge to you. I don't want to set it up like a thing. This is something going to be for you personally to do. But here's 3 steps that I would tell you that you can take to not be distracted by things that, while they are important, they're not unimportant, to stop being distracted by things that are not the most significant thing, King Jesus. So these are a couple of steps that I suggest to you. Take them if you want. Don't take them. It's up to you. But here's where I think we should land as Christians. I think we need to start staying off social media. And I'm addicted to it. You've seen, if you follow me on anything, you know I'm on all the time. But the step that I'm going to start taking is I'm going to start, A, continuing to be a more positive influence in social media, and B, I'm going to scroll past every argument that happens. Because what happens is as I'm scrolling social media, telling myself that I'm connecting with church people and connecting with old friends, what happens is that guy from 4th grade posts a meme that I disagree with, and all of a sudden my blood pressure starts to rise, and I'm ready to argue with this kiddo I haven't seen in 14 years how wrong he is. Right? What happens is I get on social media and I scroll through Twitter and I look at the sports stuff and I look at the memes and I laugh at things, but then I get to somebody who's telling me the whole world's collapsing and all of my fear comes in and it's like everything starts to get really bad for me. And so I'm not saying shut down social media forever. Maybe you should if that's the way you go, but I think it's a good tool for us as people. But maybe for us, what we need to do is spend a little less time arguing, a little less time getting bogged down in minute information and articles and fear, and just turn it off. This next one, again, it's going to be controversial because some of y'all just want to argue with me. It's fine. It's not about the significant things, so I won't argue. I think you should turn off your TV, at least if you're watching the news. I don't care which side. Well, you can tell me you're watching the right side or the left side. You can tell me you're watching the anchor who knows the most. I don't care. They're all doing one thing. They're all getting paid to make you scared of whatever it is they want to make you scared of. And the more you get scared, the more money they make. I'm not saying it's okay to not be informed. We need to know things. We need to have opinion on things. But I'm saying if this is something that's distracting you from the most important, significant thing, it's time to get rid of it. I mean, we won't turn the TV off at our house because we watch like Master Chef and Ted Lasso. They don't make us afraid of anything except the fact that we're not very good cooks. But maybe for you, this is the thing you're going, you know what, these important things are distracting me from the most significant. And this is my third one, and this is so key. As a Christian, I need you to hear this. Stop dying on hills that are not Calvary. You can have whatever stance you want on masks, on vaccinations, on politics, on sports, on roads, on traffic, on restaurants, pizza restaurants, taco restaurants. Stop dying on hills that are not the hill of Calvary where Jesus was crucified. That is the only one that we should have. I tell people this all the time, like, you don't really know my political opinions. You don't really know a lot of my opinions about a lot of things. We've maybe talked about it privately, but publicly, I have one hill that I will die on. And I will say this forever. I want you to hear more than anything from me, Jesus died on Calvary for you. So I don't want to let my other opinions that I have influence how you feel about me when I share that one opinion with you. But as Christians, so often we get bogged down in so many different ways and arguments and things that we are arguing for so many things with so much passion that by the time it gets to the time to discuss King Jesus, they go, oh, is this just another feather in your cap? Is this just another stand you'll take? As Christians, the only hill we die on is the hill of Calvary. Stop having the other arguments. Stop fighting for anything else. Only fight for the thing that is most significant. Do not be distracted by the things that are important. Rid yourself of distractions and focus on Jesus. You may have noticed, if you were here on time, that we started the sermon earlier than we typically do in the service, and we did that for a reason. We did that because I want you to take this opportunity for the next 20, 25 minutes to rid yourself of some distractions. And so what I want you to do is just kind of like take your brain and just shake it, okay? Shake all the distractions out. Some of you, there will be a rattling sound. It's okay. I want to challenge you to do this. Take your phone, turn it off. We're going to sing a couple more songs together, and I want you to focus on nothing else. I don't want you to worry about where you're going for lunch. I don't want you to worry about homework. I don't want you to worry about busy work you have this afternoon. I don't want you to worry about anything else. I want you to take the next 20 minutes and focus on the one thing that is most significant. I want to challenge you to sing with us and to focus your life and to say, Jesus, what I want in this moment, what I need in this opportunity is for you to reveal to me how you are most significant in my life. To rid yourself of all of the other distractions and say there is only one thing that is significant, that is better, and that is Jesus. Stand with me, and I'm going to pray, and then we're going to sing together. Father God, you're the only one who can turn graves into gardens, the only one who can turn mourning to dancing. And God, we know that nothing is better than you. In these next few moments together, help us to focus on you. Help us to focus on what you have to offer and who you are. God, give us the courage to make your Son the only hill we die on. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
That the highest He would welcome me. I was lost, but He brought me in. Oh, His love for me. Oh, His love for me. The sun sets free. Oh, is free. Child of God, yes I am. Free at last He has ransomed me. His grace runs me. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. When all of a sudden I am unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory, and I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. Ooh, how he loves us so. Ooh, how he loves us. How he loves us so. He is jealous for me. Love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. All of a sudden, I am unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory, and I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affection.
invite you to have a seat for just a moment. That song was actually written in 2008, which was 13 years ago, if you needed a math lesson. But when that song was written by John Mark McMillan 13 years ago, the original lyrics said, "So heaven meets earth like a sloppy, wet kiss." And then about 3 years later, one of the most famous worship leaders in the world at the time, David Crowder's band, wanted to do that song, but they felt weird about the lyrics sloppy, wet kiss. So they changed the line to unforeseen kiss, and it started what is known as the Great Schism in Worship of 2011. And you would not have thought that worship leaders could get their skinny jeans this much in a bunch, but they could. And it was this massive debate for months about whether the lyrics should be sloppy wet kiss or unforeseen kiss. Like churches were like splitting over this idea of what it was. And I thought it was really fun to watch, kind of like as just an observer of church culture. There were churches who changed it to like anything you can imagine. My personal favorite was the church who changed it to like East meets West. They weren't very good at geography, but it was this moment where like I started thinking about what does it mean? And I started trying to like dig into what is the purpose of that line? Like a sloppy wet kiss, like an unforeseen kiss. And then I didn't really get it until I became a parent. And I didn't get it until I became a parent like of a 5 and 7-year-old. And my kids don't get in trouble very often, but they do. And when they get in trouble, they get really mad about being in trouble. They don't like to be in trouble. And so, you send them to their room and you kind of discipline them and you ground them, whatever. And then you have that moment where like the trouble's over. And you as a parent, you're like, all right, I'm over it. Let's move on. I got more TV to watch. But they're not done being mad yet. And so as a parent, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that does this, but you do this thing where you kind of just like scoop them up anyway. And you squeeze them and you tell them, I was mad at you, but I still love you so much. And you give them that big old kiss on the side of their cheek and they wipe it off. And it's that moment where I'm like, you know what, buddy? It does not matter to me one bit what you have done and what you will do. It doesn't matter to me how far you fall. It doesn't matter to me what you become. There is nothing that will change how much I love you. And they'll try to wrestle away, and I'll just grip them tighter because for now I'm stronger than them. And I plant that big juicy kiss right on their cheek, and I tell them how much I love them. And so when heaven meets earth, it is God the Creator wrapping his loving arms around you and me, saying, I don't care where you've been. I don't care what you've done. I am here, and I love you no matter what. And that is that moment when heaven meets earth like a sloppy wet kiss. And my heart turns violently inside of my chest because I don't have time to maintain these regrets because he loves us. So we're going to finish that song together. And while we do, I want to encourage you in the back 2 tables there's communion. If you haven't got it, if you haven't gotten it yet, you feel free to go walk up and grab some. But as we take communion together, as we sing this song, and you peel off the top and you remember that his body was broken for you, represented by the bread, and then you peel off the next layer and you take the cup and remember that his blood was poured out for you, you can remember that it doesn't matter where you've been, it doesn't matter what you've done, it doesn't matter who you are. He is here to meet you like heaven meets earth with the sloppy, wet kiss. And he loves you so much that he sent his one and only son, that if you believe in him, you will not die but have eternal life, because his son died on the cross, was buried, and rose again. As you take communion, will you sing that together with us one more time and remember how much he loves us?
like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath weight of his wind and mercy. All of a sudden, I am unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory. Realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. Know how he loves us so. Know how he loves us. How he loves us so. How he loves us so. Oh, how he loves us. How he loves us so. Yeah, he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. Yeah, he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. And we are his portion, and he is our prize. Drawn to redemption by the grace in his eyes. If grace is an ocean, we're all sinking. So heaven meets earth like an unforeseen kiss, and my heart turns violently inside of my chest. And I don't have time to maintain these regrets when I think about the way that he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. Yeah, he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. How he loves us so. Know how he loves us. How he loves us so.
I want to thank each of you for being here today. And before you're dismissed, I want to just kind of share two things with you really quickly. The first thing I want to share is just a short reminder. If you call Madison Hills Christian Church home, if this is the place that you say, I belong, I want to challenge you to, even in the midst of what is still unprecedented and crazy times, to stay faithful and stay with us. One of the ways that we ask you to do that is by giving. And you can give at the box in the back. You can give at the iPad in the back. You can give in the Church Center app or online at madisonhills.org. But the money that you give is the money that goes to help us fund the mission of helping people find and follow Jesus. Helping us throw parties for people who no one else is throwing parties for. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a golden alert in town, and we spent, I think it was over 60 hours in search and rescue for this gentleman. And Monday morning, Madison County Emergency Management said, listen, we need help. We need to feed these teams. And I was able to step up as a part of Madison Hills and say, listen, we're going to take care of this meal. And we bought Raising Cane's for the entire search and rescue team Monday afternoon because of your faithful generosity. Over and over again, needs happen, opportunities come, and we're able to meet those because you're generous. But we cannot do that if you do not continue to be generous. In October, we're going to partner with Daniel Boone Elementary to help them throw their fall festival. We've already got big plans for what we're doing, but we can't do that if you're not faithful in your giving. We believe that God will provide what we need to do ministry. We just believe that he chooses to use you to provide it. So I want to challenge you, if you consider this your church home, to make sure that you're doing what it takes to help fund the mission of helping people find and follow Jesus. Right now downstairs, there's kids who are learning about Jesus because you were faithful and funded the mission. There's kids across the parking lot in our student ministry learning about Jesus because you funded the mission, and I want to challenge you to continue to do so. The second thing I want to challenge you to do is I want to challenge you to join a group. If you're not yet in a group, there are multiple options over on the Next Steps wall in the back in the lobby, but I want to give you two really easy options. The first one is, it's called Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage, and if you're married, your marriage could be better, and don't lie, because I know. That was a joke, y'all, it's okay. But these groups are both launching on Wednesday night, September 8th, which is actually 10 days from now because September is just around the corner. And I want to encourage you to join one of these two groups. The first is Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage. It's a fun and silly video, but there's a lot that comes with it and a lot of opportunity for you and your spouse to grow together. If you're married, if you're considering marriage, this is a perfect opportunity for you to bring the kids because we have programming for kids that night. Bring your students because we have programming for students. And we'll have group every Wednesday starting September 8th at 6:30. If that's not your cup of tea, if your marriage is already perfect, maybe you need to start with Jesus because you're a liar. But if that's not your cup of tea, the other opportunity we have is a group called The Chosen. And The Chosen is a mini-series. It's a fantastic mini-series on the life of Jesus. And there's opportunities there for the group to dive in and kind of learn and invest together. And so I want to challenge you, either one of those, the QR codes are available on the Next Steps wall. They'll be available on the slides afterwards. I want to challenge you to make a decision that says, starting Wednesday, September 8th, I'm joining a group and I'm committing to this to focus on what is significant. Thank you all so much for being here. Thanks to our friends for joining us online. We hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you next Sunday.